I'm Marissa Brown, and this is Artifact 8 for Standard 4.1 ISTE Criterion 12, Collaborate with Other Educators. Within my iTech 7400 course, we collaborated with colleagues by requesting feedback, making revisions to our lesson based on colleague feedback, and also providing colleagues with feedback as well. As a part of an instructional technology course, my colleagues and I were tasked to create an engaged, authentic learning experience that leverages technology. I created a project called Newton's Laws and Rockets. Upon completing my rough draft, I posted my lesson on our course discussion board requesting feedback. The feedback I was asking for was on my hook and how to make it more engaging, and anything that my colleagues thought was unclear about the lesson for either a student perspective or a teacher. Colleagues responded by providing suggestions such as adding videos or images to the hook. They provided constructed feedback, which I used to make revisions for my final draft. I provided a fellow colleague feedback and suggestions based on her request. She wanted feedback on her format, whether or not this lesson could be replicated, clarity, and her templates provided. In my reply, I made specific suggestions for her request. I gave her feedback on her modifications and provided her with my suggestions on how to make the lesson accessible for other teachers to be able to teach. I provided another colleague feedback and suggestions based on her request. She wanted feedback on whether it would be considered a low T level 6 if her lesson was posted on a learning management system. In my reply, I provided her several additional ways she can consider enhancing her project to meet low T level 6. We all made revisions based on the feedback we gave to each other and received for our final draft. Artifact 8 proves as evidence that I dedicated planning time to colleagues in collaboration to create authentic learning experience that leverage technology. I'm Marissa Brown, and this is Artifact 8 for Standard 4.3 ISTE Criterion 14, facilitate students' virtual meetings with experts or students. I created an engaged learning project for my 8th grade students called Newton's Laws and Rockets. In this project, students create a launchable 3D rocket made of 2-liter soda bottles and other materials by working in groups of 2 to 3. In order to build the rocket, students must first do research within their groups to finish and complete a design brief, which is their explanation for their design, and a blueprint of their rocket. They must tie everything back to Newton's 3 laws of motions. Students were given the opportunity to work and participate in a Zoom call with Georgia Tech's Rambling Rocket Club. I figured this would be the best way to seek additional information to help support them in their blueprint as well as their design brief. Before students participated, students completed a Google form, which was located in my Google Classroom, with their questions so that we could prepare the Rocket Club for the questions that students were going to ask. During the process of this implementation of the lesson, I reached out to several local Georgia colleges that had Rocket Clubs so they could provide their expertise for students. During the presentation, students were able to ask their questions, and the Rambling Rocket Club showed them some of the projects they had been working on. For students that could not attend, we did record it and provided hints as to where the most useful information could be found in the video. Artifact 8 shows my demonstration of the use of collaborative tools to expand students' authentic, real-world learning experience by engaging virtually with experts, teams, and students locally and globally. I'm Marissa Brown, and this is Artifact 8 for Standard 4.4 ISTE Criterion 15, demonstrate effective communication with all students' supports. I created an engaged learning project for my 8th grade physical science students called Newton's laws, and rockets. In this project, students create a launchable 3D rocket made of 2-liter soda bottles and other materials by working in groups of 2 to 3. In order to build the rocket, students must first do research while working in groups in order to finish and complete a design brief or their explanation for their design and a blueprint of their rocket. They must tie everything back to Newton's 3 laws of motion. Communication with the stakeholders was completed through our school's social media page, school website, faculty email, Microsoft Teams, and my team's newsletters to guardians. Within the newsletter, we included important dates and links to the parent material letter that we sent out prior to beginning the project, and an outline as well to let parents know what their students would be working on and what some of the tasks that needed to be completed. Parents and guardians were emailed the newsletter weekly and also sent weekly reminders of what needed to be done. As a part of this project, students utilized their school laptops for the purposes of researching information to help deepen the explanation of their blueprint and explanation of how a rocket works. Students utilized Google Slides for the purposes of completing their design journal using the Creative Play Spiral. Students were physically in the classroom with their group members. However, they utilized comments for feedback and shared their blueprint with other groups for peer review before submitting their second draft and final draft on Google Classroom to the teacher. In addition, they also shared their work with me, their rough draft, to get feedback in addition to student support. All completed documents were turned in on Google Classroom. I collaborated with students via Google Classroom, email, and the project check-in while in class. Google Classroom was utilized for the purpose of providing students with project resources and information as well as submissions. This proves as evidence that I demonstrate cultural competency when communicating with students, parents, and colleagues and interacting with them as co-collaborators in student learning. I'm Marissa Brown, and this is Artifact 8 for Standard 5.2 ISTE Criterion 17, aligned to content area standards. I created an engaged learning project for my 8th grade physical science students called Newton's Laws and Rockets. This project, students created a launchable 3D rocket made of 2-liter soda bottles and other materials by working in groups of 2 to 3. In order to build the rocket, students must first do research, working in groups in order to complete and finish their design brief or the explanation for their design and a blueprint of their rocket. All these had to be tied back into Newton's 3 laws of motion. This engaged learning experience, students obtained, evaluate, and communicated information to explain the relationships among force, mass, and motion. This project emphasized AKS 8, which was construction of an explanation based on experimental evidence to support the claims in Newton's 3 laws of motion, analyze and interpret data to identify the relationship between mass and gravitational force for falling objects, as well as the next generation standards for science of constructing and presenting arguments using evidence to support the claim that gravitational interactions are attractive and depend on the masses of interacting objects. In addition, students utilize technology tools such as Google Classroom, Google Docs, Google Slides, Flip, and Zoom in order to complete the digital portion of their project. This proves as evidence that I designed authentic learning experience that align with content area standards and use digital tools and resources to maximize active, deep learning.